Welcome, everybody. I hope you're doing very well. I'm presently working out the final kinks of making sure that I'm live. I think I now am live in across the board. Am I live now in Facebook as well? So you are all very welcome. I'm Owen Fitzpatrick, and I'm going to be talking to you just for the next few minutes about how to become a great thought leader. In other words, what are the five qualities of the very best thought leaders? What do they tend to have in common? So very excited to be doing this. I'm testing out a new platform using a thing called StreamYard for anyone who's interested. And so I can see a number of people joining on Instagram. I don't have that much data on Instagram as to what's going on. But I am also on Facebook Live, excuse me, and I'm on YouTube and LinkedIn Live, I believe. So if you are on YouTube, hey, Darren, how's it going? You're live in London. I am indeed, Darren. Yeah, I'm tuning in from New York and live in London as well. The miracles of technology, and that's to LinkedIn. So good to see you, Darren, on LinkedIn. Have we got anyone in YouTube or anyone in Instagram? Please do let me know. Hey, Jill, how's it going? Hey, Ambra, ciao. We got plenty of folks that have been joining on Instagram as well. So we got a great group of people here, which I'm delighted to see. We'll get straight into it, I think. Just want to make sure we're definitely rolling well on LinkedIn. We're rolling well on YouTube, and we are also on Facebook as well. So, which is great. So let me just double check this. All right. Having some sort of, oh yeah, okay. So, sorry, bear with me, everybody. And I'll just have to do it this way. Okay, so hopefully you're all able to see me clearly here. So let me talk about the five qualities that you need to have in order for you to be a great thought leader. And then we look at great thought leaders as people like the likes of Brené Brown or Adam Grant or Simon Sinek, people that are very well known with huge audiences. You've obviously on LinkedIn, you've got some great thought leaders there that are specialists in like solopreneurship, like Justin Welch. You got Ben Meir. You've got some high performance folk, both the Dan Go in terms of from a fitness perspective and Dan Ko more sort of from a philosophical or a spiritual or psychological perspective. Sahil Bloom, of course, and a lot of these names would be well known on Twitter and well known on LinkedIn. But again, you've got other people in terms of those with podcasts. You've got Modern Wisdom. You've got people like Tony Robbins. You've got Jordan Peterson. You've got a whole host of different individuals that are very well known in their space, and very well known because not just their ideas, but also the way in which they're able to communicate their ideas. So this brings us to the first of the five qualities that we're going to be looking at, is the quality of clarity. And when I say clarity, I'm not just talking to be clear about what you're talking about. I'm talking about being clear about your brand, being clear about your audience, and being clear about your message. So let's take each one of those. One of the big mistakes a lot of people make whenever they're talking about their brand is that they have a way of describing what they do to others, but the way in which they describe it is not always as clear to the people they're talking to as it is to them. So often you can be so close to something, you understand what you do, but you don't know how to put that across. And so for you to be able to be as effective as possible at getting that message to others, you really do need to be thinking through, how do I master the art of the pitch? How do I present exactly who I am, exactly what I do in such a way that it maximizes the likelihood that the other person that I'm talking to is going to fully understand it? So what you really want to be able to master is, how can you communicate to the people that you talk to in such a way that straight away they get it? How do you reduce the amount of effort, cognitive effort that they have to put in order to figure out who you are? So let's imagine, you're a business consultant and you help startups to be able to scale their operations. Right. So what you need to be able to do is very clearly, how can you articulate that in a nutshell that immediately makes people go, oh, this is what they do. And not only this is what they do, but also this is how they're different. So you also need to be able to differentiate yourself in a sentence. If you can Explain to people exactly what you do in a sentence and then explain what makes you different in a sentence. You're already a step ahead of the vast majority of thought leaders out there. So you want to be able to be very clear of exactly what do you do, and what do you do differently to the other people that do something similar to you. You also want to know what audience you work with. This is the real way to niche. A lot of times people talk about the niche or the niche, as I call it. And when you talk about that, a lot of the mistakes that people make is that they try to niche into a topic. So they start off with, oh, I'm a expert in emotional intelligence, and I really focus on the self-management and the self-regulation. Well, okay, but no one cares, right? People care about whether or not you can help them to solve their problems. So we need to be focusing on the problem, not the product, right? Instead of focusing on the tool, you need to be focusing on what is the problem that the tool that you provide helps them to be able to fix in their life. And that also, from a niche perspective, means you want to be niching down in terms of the people that you're working with, not necessarily the topic that you're working with them on. So instead of niching, go, oh, I help with this particular part of stress management. No, you help people manage stress who are of this age group, in this demographic, of this psychographic. You're being as specific as you can. And by doing so, that clarity is going to serve you quite effectively moving forward into the future. This needs to go out in all of your messaging in terms of when you're promoting yourself on Instagram or LinkedIn or YouTube or Facebook. You need to be able to articulate who you are, what you do, who you do it for, and what makes you different. It's who you are, what you do, who you do it for, and what makes you different. And if you can explain each of those four in clear, simple, powerful language, you're off to the races. And again, whenever we think of these great thought leaders, one thing that comes to mind is instantly we're thinking in terms of their brand. So you think about Brené Brown, you immediately think vulnerability. You think about Simon Sinek, you immediately think why? Because they've built that brand. Now, Adam Grant, for example, organizational psychologist, he's interesting because he is you think organizational psychologist, you're more likely to think of him, but he's focused on different topics, a little bit like a Gladwellian, Malcolm Gladwell approach to books. So when Adam writes his books, he writes give and take. This is about do givers do better or takers do better in life? Great book. Or Originals, right? Or his latest couple of books, one of my favorites, which is Think Again, which is, again, one idea in the book. But you think about this notion of thinking again, and you think of Adam Grant. You think about Originals, you think of Adam Grant. You think about Outliers, you think of Malcolm Gladwell. So they're examples of people that were clear and specific, but they've built a number of different branded ideas as opposed to the one big overarching idea that you always know from that person. So it's important to recognize the difference between those two things and to be able to keep that clarity when you are in that situation. The second quality, as well as clarity of brand and all that sort of stuff, that you need to make sure you're mastering is originality. And when I say originality, I'm not saying that you have to come up with a new idea that no one's ever thought of before. Indeed, you start with why, Simon Sinek's idea. In many ways, that's very similar to mission-centered leadership. It's very similar to a lot of the fundamental principles of marketing. You start from why. You get to the emotional reasoning as to what's driving the purchasing behavior or the decision, indeed. So there's all of these ideas. Again, Brené Brown, vulnerability. Other people have talked about vulnerability and the importance, but it's not so much just the newness of the idea. It's the way in which you communicate the idea. You're talking about this idea in a way that no one's ever talked about it before. You're using a metaphor that no one's ever used before. That's what makes it great, right? There's a guy called Mo Goddard who's written a great book called Solve for Happy. And a wonderful, very powerful story. He's a former, very successful senior engineer at Google. And this book, Solve for Happy, is great. Now, the book itself has his story, which is obviously his story, which is very powerful and very sort of emotional. But the reality is there's nothing in the book that's like dramatically different to what we already know from the science of happiness. But he's packaged it in such a way that it's really well done, to the point that it almost feels like you're learning something new, even if you already know a lot of the same ideas. So the ability to package your ideas and your messages and your frameworks and your strategies and suggestions in something that feels completely original. That's the key. And a good way to do this, excuse me, is to look at what is it that everyone else in your field is doing, and what is it that you do differently? What is it that everyone in your field is saying, and what do you say differently? This is also a great way to get more attention on LinkedIn. You polarize, you figure out what is an opinion that I have that's significantly different to most people talking in my space. What is it that most people are saying about stress management, or how to sleep, or how to grow your business, or how to improve your sales, or how to grow your marketing, that I do, and necessarily I do it differently to all of them? Because when you start to identify what makes you different, that will help you to be able to be better and smarter in the way in which you communicate your message. And so by doing so, you put yourself on a course of action, which allows you to be a lot more successful in the way in which you grab and keep attention. The third thing, as well as being original and as well as being able to be clear, is to also be able to be organized. And this means organized in your workflow. So how much content are you putting out? How much are you letting people know about your level of expertise? How much are you letting people know about what you can do, about how you can help them to solve their problems? The better able you are to be able to help other people figure out what they need to do in order to make changes, the more likely they are to be able to want to work with you. And this needs to be something you build over time. So you don't just create one video and everyone watches the video and goes, oh my goodness, this is the video for me. You've solved all my problems. Instead, what you really need to do is you need to be able to consistently show up over time and solve a lot of their what we call micro problems. That means if, for example, there's one element, let's say, for example, they're looking to improve or optimize their sales. Well, maybe you help them in terms of you create content about overcoming objections. Maybe you work on content to help them build their confidence as salespeople. So what you're doing is you're solving the small aspects of the overall big problem. So you become indispensable to them as a thought leader. And the only way to do that is to be organized so that you know every week exactly how you're going to do things. So you start off and you should have time every week where you ideate, you create the ideas that you're going to talk about that week. And those ideas should be well thought out from a prospect perspective. Who are you speaking to? Who's the audience? What do they need? And you also, as well as being able to figure out what those ideas are and making sure that they will actually solve the problems that you're looking for, you want to also make sure that the people that you're communicating with, you're doing so in a consistent manner. So every single day they're hearing from you, they're seeing from you, they're watching you, they're learning from you, they're showing up, they're commenting with you. Especially on LinkedIn, obviously, we want to be able to comment lots back and forth. And when you give yourself the opportunity to be able to regularly show up and be organized like this, immediately you start to get traction with the clients and the audience that you have. So for example, consistency means ideating. That means coming up with ideas, then drafting or creating, maybe even in batches, creating the kind of content that you want for social media. And then it's about scheduling and editing first, and then scheduling that, whether that's video, whether that's podcasting, whether that's, social media, Instagram reels or whatnot, or even long form posts or carousels or whatnot, the way in which you approach that. But all the best thought leaders tends to do this effectively. Thanks, Darren. And this is, to me, I'm always looking for what's the simple, clear way in which we can get things sorted. And when you think about it in terms of, I like to think of it in those three spaces. You come up with the ideas, you create the ideas, and then you check and schedule the ideas. So ideation, first and foremost. Then at another time, you create it, you write based upon the ideas you select. And then the final one, you edit, and then you schedule, or you post, and then you engage. And by making it that simple, it makes it a lot easier for you to do what you need to do in that context. Number 4 is deep and wide knowledge. This means what you're looking to objectively do is you're looking to be able to make it so that you're learning from whatever areas that you're in, what you need to know in order for you to be able to help the people that you're talking to. And this requires 2 types of knowledge. First of all, wide knowledge means that you know what your competitors are doing. You're able to look beside yourself and you're able to see all the different competitors that are presenting the same kind of solutions as you are, right? And what do you disagree with them on? This also helps with number 2, originality. You're able to look at, where do I stand in this area? How am I different to everyone else? And you're doing so that you can understand as fully as possible exactly where you sit. And once you know exactly where you sit, once you know exactly where you stand, once you know exactly what you need to do to stand out, that puts you in a position where you now can be more original, can be more unique, and can have more of a unique value proposition, as we call it, in the area. But first of all, you have to be wide. You have to have a wide knowledge of the different areas of your topic space. And you also then have to be able to go deep. One of the things that a lot of people will be found out about in terms of expertise, especially when they've made themselves successful on Instagram or Facebook or TikTok, is you really know what you're talking about when you can talk about it at length. So you can find someone out if you interview them on a podcast. You can find someone out if they're talking for a 20-minute video on YouTube. When people are forced to spend a lot of time create what we call long form content, that's when you're able to separate the people that know what they're talking about to everyone that doesn't. It's easy to be smart in a minute. It's easy to read a script, or it's easy to be clever, off the top of your head once upon a time, and then to post or publish that. But someone who's able to consistently communicate for 20, 30, 40, 50 minutes, sometimes a couple of hours, demonstrates a degree of pedigree, or a pedigree that suggests that they know what they're talking about. And by the way, I'm not saying that people can bullshit for 2 hours, but it's much easier for you to figure out if they are, or if they're actually legitimate over 2 hours. It's hard to read someone based upon a 1-minute reel, especially if they're, dancing and pointing to different parts of the screen. No disrespect to anyone. You can demonstrate expertise that way by, creating really good stuff and having long captions and whatnot, let's say on Instagram. But the depth and the width of your knowledge will really play a part in determining whether or not people find themselves believing you and understanding you. By the way, please let me know in the comments if this is making sense. If you're joining us via Instagram, let me know. If you're joining me via YouTube or LinkedIn, let me know, or Facebook indeed. Would be great to hear from you, and if this is making sense to you, and if you can, catch my drift, if you will. The 5th one is entertaining and engaging. This is another key. It's not enough to have great ideas. It's not enough to even to be clear about great ideas. It's not enough to solve people's problems. To be a thought leader, you need to lead people in terms of thinking. And the best way to lead people in terms of thinking is make them want to listen to you. How do you make them want to listen to you? You need to be engaging. You need to involve them and provoke them and speak about things that are relevant to them. You need to be enjoyable to listen to, entertaining to listen to. Have a bit of a sense of humor. Certainly have a bit of a personality. You don't always have to have a sense of humor. There's some experts, thought leaders out there that never crack jokes, that never laugh. They're very serious. And that's fine. So you don't have to be funny. You don't have to be dancing. You don't have to be silly. But if you are silly or weird, showcase that. Let them see you. Let them see the weird you. Let them see the real you. Authenticity goes miles as a thought leader because it makes you more interesting, more engaging, more entertaining. So be yourself. Let people see the real you. Let people experience what it's like to be chatting to you, and let them know that you're not just like everybody else and you're not trying to be anybody. You simply are being yourself. So this notion of being entertaining and engaging is truly a game changer when it comes to actively getting people to relate to you, connect with you, and as a result of that, be impacted by you as well. So just to overlook the main things we talked about, clarity was the first thing. So it's how do you demonstrate clarity in terms of being clear about your brand, being clear about your message, being clear about, who are you? What do you do for people? Who do you do that for? And what makes you different? And then also making sure that you're clear about exactly how you're going to communicate that to others. The second one is being original. So being able to talk about things in a way that no one else does. And that means packaging your ideas in a way that no one else is speaking about it, using different metaphors, different words, different terms, different thoughts, different stories, different examples. That makes people see things a lot differently. The next is about being more organized. That means organizing your workflow. So you're taking time every week to come up with ideas, taking time every week to create ideas and create posts or podcast episodes or videos or whatnot. And then coming up every week with ideas or taking some time every week to schedule and edit those ideas. Then number 4, after organized, number 4 is making sure you have deep and wide knowledge. Wide knowledge in terms of knowing what other people are doing, knowing what your competitors are doing, knowing how they're tackling the issues, which also helps you know how to stand out. And then second of all, the depth of knowledge. You really do know your stuff and you can demonstrate that because that's what's going to make people want to hire you as a coach, as a trainer, as a speaker, as a therapist, your depth of knowledge. And then number 5, how engaging or entertaining are you? Are you bringing your personality to the table? Are you just all about the information or are you letting them see a glimpse into who you are? If you take, for example, Andrew Huberman, he goes very, very deep in his excellent podcasts, all about, neuroscience and the brain and, stretches into science as well. But one of the things he does is, he presents his real personality. So he doesn't try to be super funny. He doesn't try to be, like anyone else. He is himself. And as a result of that, people like it because they feel that this person's being real. And that's what keeps it engaging. And that's what keeps it entertaining. Right? Because he's fascinated with the topic itself, and therefore that is exuded to the rest of us also. So those are some ideas on the 5 things that we need to do to become more effective as thought leaders. Let me know in the comments whether you're watching this live or whether you watch it afterwards. What was the most useful one for you, the best insight for you? Really hope you found this helpful. For any of you interested in becoming a more highly profitable thought leader, for making more money, doing better in the area or the space that you are in as a coach or trainer or speaker. Just to let you know, the Thought Leaders Mentorship is open again. It's a monthly, I do 2 monthly sessions with people where I do a 90-minute training session on anything from podcasting to building your newsletter to improving your business and getting clearer on your brand. And I also do a 60-minute office hour session where you turn up on a Zoom meeting call, with the rest of the community, and you ask whatever questions you have, and I answer you face to face in that context every single month. So it's a great opportunity if you are looking to be able to accelerate your business in that way. There's also a bunch of free stuff. You get all of the archives, which is more than 100 hours of training on everything you could possibly imagine around being the thought leader. And there's all sorts of gadgetry. If you go to owenfitzpatrick.com/TLM, that's T for Tango, L for Libra, M for Mango. Pretty sure I picked those names out of nowhere. But TLM, Thought Leaders Mentorship, that's probably a better way of saying it. owenfitzpatrick.com/TLM, you'll see it. And the price goes up on Monday night. So if you want to get in there before the price goes up significantly, get in before Monday. Hope to see you there. Thank you very much for watching. Please do reach out with any thoughts or questions you have on any of the channels. For now, though, take care, be well, and may the force, as always, be with you. And may you all continue to do great and to believe better. And I'll talk to you soon. Thank you very much for watching. Bye for now.